Welcome to this session, and we will start about symmetric key cryptography. What is symmetric key cryptography? Let me give a very simple example. This is basically this encryption algorithm is called substitution cipher. So what is the substitution cipher? So this the example that I am showing on the screen is called a mono alphabetic cipher. For example, every alphabet will be replaced by some other alphabet, like A becomes M, B becomes N, C becomes B, like that, A to Z you have another map. So what will happen if plain text Bob says I love you Alice, cipher text will become NKN, SJKTC, WKY, MGSBC. Now when Bob sends to Alice this message, Alice should know the exact reverse, like from the cipher text she should know how to get back to the plain text, right. So this is the important thing. So this mapping between plain text to the cipher text is what both Bob and Alice should know. When they know this mapping to the this thing from this text to the other text, then basically they can send any message and then basically get back, you can encrypt using this message and decrypt using the same mapping. Now this is a very easy way of implementing alphabet based communication. But the point is that when we are talking about confidentiality, when Alice sends to Bob, Bob alone should understand what the message is, but many people can receive the message. It is a public network, it goes into several lines, and so any people can get it. Many of the people can get it, many of the components in the network can get it. Now what if some other component is interested in understanding this? Suppose they try to understand this mono alphabetic substitution cipher becomes extremely easy. One can even do a brute force, however hard it may be, you can just do a brute force and then you can find out. Somebody can actually cook up some small sentences, and if he knows one or two mapping, then it is very easy for them to find out the other mapping. But this is symmetric key, because the encryption that is known to Bob is the same encryption, the mapping that is known to Bob is the same mapping that Alice also need to understand, and if they understand that both, then this entire substitution cipher will work. But this is not too secure, because we could have many types of attacks, including some dictionary attacks and other things, by which you can basically decrypt the message. Okay, so this is one example of symmetric key cryptography, but not a very strong example. But this is an example that I can introduce to you to make you understand what is symmetric key cryptography. To repeat, Alice and Bob has respective encryption and decryption algorithms, and these encryption and decryption requires a key, and the key is the same. In this case the key is actually the mapping from one to another, and vice versa. So the symmetric cryptography works like this. There is a plain text message M that is sent, there is a key K A to B, that is Alice to Bob, that will be used for encrypting this, that will give you a cipher text which is K of M, and this reaches the decryption side where again the same key K A minus B, because symmetric key same key is used, and you get a plain text which is again K A minus B of K A minus B of M should be back equal to M. So the encryption algorithm that I follow should ensure the property that I take a message, I encrypt using a key, I again decrypt using the same key, I should get back the original message. The most commonly used symmetric key algorithms are the DES, the AES and 3AES. Now let us go into what are the issues with symmetric key cryptography. The main issue here is that this requires the sender and the receiver should know what the shared secret key is, right. So this is very important. So if I have 100 people I am communicating with, for each one I should have a key. So I have 100 different keys and I have to use them judiciously whenever I am communicating, right. This is one part. The second thing is how to even agree on the key in the first place, particularly if you have never met each other. How do we first agree? like I should send a message to you saying this is the key, and how will I encrypt that message, because I need a key to encrypt it, right, and that key itself I am communicating, how will I encrypt a key, right. So that is the most important aspect, right. So and we could have, see today I am so let us say we have created a router today, that router would not have talked to some country, other country router or some other router in the first day. Second day it will discover a new router, because as and when somebody tries to access say something outside in that region, then only this router will start talking to the next router. So in a network new routers are added, and every time you start talking to the new network router, so every time when I am talking to someone new, I need to start generating a key and understand what that key is, and both of them should start using that key. This is going to be practically impossible. So the thing is, okay, I will have a public key, I encrypt using that public key, whoever wants to take, you have a private key, you decrypt with the private key. This is the basic infrastructure of what we call as public key cryptography. This public key cryptography is actually radically different approach than the symmetric key cryptography, wherein the sender and receiver has the same key. So in the public key cryptography, the sender receiver do not share secret key, that is the most important thing. If I start sharing secret key, then the question comes, when I have not even met you, a new router comes into the place and the old router wants to talk to the new router. Now how does it securely send the key so that nobody else actually finds out what the key is. So that is the major challenge when we go for public key cryptography. So in the that is the major challenge when we go for symmetric key cryptography, which now we want to get rid by having this public key cryptography. So the Diffie-Hellman and RSA are two interesting examples of public key cryptography. The public encryption key is known to all, while the private decryption key is known only to the receiver. So this is where we stand with respect to the public key cryptography. So what happens here? So I have a plain text message M, I do an encryption algorithm using a public key which I call it as KB plus, okay, and this goes out, and then there is KB minus which Alice has, which is Bob's private key, right. So I used with the public key, Bob's private key is there with KB minus, and so Alice actually decrypts the cyber message which is KB plus M using this KB minus which is Bob's private key. So for all public encryption I can use the for anybody who wants to communicate with me, they can use my public key, and then they need to have a private key which basically helps them get back the message. So the public key and the private key are matched, they are actually one to one matched in such a way that if I take the M and I encrypt using public key, we get KB plus of M, I decrypt using the private key which is KB minus of this. So KB minus of KB plus of M should be back to M, and this is what public key cryptography basically ensures you. The another important property of RSA, which is a public, as I told you, RSA is a public key, RSA 78 is actually a public key cryptography system, and one of the very important property that RSA ensures is KB minus of KB plus of M is equal to M is equal to KB plus of KB minus of M. So whether I apply the private key first and then the public key is the same as applying the public key first and then the private key. So whatever you see on the left hand side is use public key first followed by private key, so KB plus M followed by KB minus. On the other hand, use private key first, KB minus M followed by public key. The result is actually the same in case of RSA. If your K is governed by RSA, then the result of applying which one plus or minus first is the same. So this is an interesting property that we will use later also. Now in addition, so this we are talking about confidentiality. The next thing that we want to talk about is integrity and authentication. There can be a message that I want to send from A to B, anybody can read this message, no problem. But when B receives it, he should have a definite decision that it has been received from A, nobody else has sent it on behalf of A, and that the message is not tampered. Right. These two are the next important, integrity and authenticity authentication are the next two important things that we saw in the beginning of the previous lecture. So importantly what we need to do here is that I need to authenticate saying that this indeed it was A who has sent the message to B. Who is interested in that? B is interested. B is interested in find out that A has sent this message, nobody else has sent that message. And the second thing is that the message sent has not been tampered with. So for doing this, the network community has lot of what we call as digital signatures. The digital signature is nothing but you write a complete document, it will have several ASCII characters. The digital signature takes these ASCII characters as input and creates something called a signature through some algorithm. So there is an algorithm called signature algorithm which will take all the alphabets, carriage written, everything in your document. It will basically go through that algorithm and it will give you one signature. Note that if you even change your document a little bit, right, if I say my name is Kamakoti, I just make it as my aim is Kamakoti, I just delete that n for example, my aim is Kamakoti, then what happens is that the entire digital signature changes. So when I had sent a message from here to B saying my name is Kamakoti and then I have put the digital signature corresponding to that, and suppose somebody intermediately removes that n, the opponent party will get my aim is Kamakoti without that n, and then when he tries to sign it, he will get a signature. Signing is nothing but giving the entire thing as input and generating an output which is called the signature. So when he does the same thing, he will get a signature which is very different from what I have put in the paper, right, what I have put in the message. So when I say my name is Kamakoti, I put my name is Kamakoti along with the signature. When the other party receives it, it takes the text and it will create the same signature and see if both signature matches. Even a small change in the data that is sent will create a large change in the signature, and by that what happens, the opponent party will know, oh, there is some change that has happened, so let us not believe in it. So what we are talking now, again please note that it is again from a forensic perspective, right. The security perspective is nobody should be in a position to go and change it. What we are now talking of the use of digital signature, if somebody actually changes, can I go and detect? So please understand, in this whole course I will always be talking about security and forensics as two different on two different parts of your balance, right. So one way is to see that nobody even tampers your text, that is called security. But if somebody changes that text, I should find out, and that forms subject matter of forensic. What we are talking in digital signature is basically from a forensic perspective, right. So I will just go through this slide very quickly. The digital signature, it's a cryptographic technique analogous to handwritten signatures, like I signed V Kamakoti, like that same thing. Here the sender Bob basically digitally signs the document establishing he is the document owner / creator, and this digital signature is both verifiable and also non-forgeable, meaning can't tamper it, and the recipient allies actually can prove to someone that Bob and no one else including allies must have signed the document. So I received the document from somebody else and I have the digital signature, I can go and do a verification and say this has been indeed sent by this person, and I have a legal proof for it, right. So that is the most important thing here. So again I just quickly tell you, a digital signature is nothing but is a cryptographic technique analogous to handwritten signatures. So this is the sender actually takes the content of his whatever he is sending and he digitally signs that document, establishing that he is the document owner / creator. When somebody downloads this document, they again have the content, they rerun the same thing and see if the both signatures match. If they mismatch, then they know that somebody has tampered the document or whatever email or whatever the digital transmission happens. Let us look at some simple forms of digital signatures. Even the normal encryption itself is a digital signature. For example, Bob signs M by encrypting with his private key KB, creating a signed message KBM, right. So this is a digital signature. So what happens, Bob actually sends a message M, say dear Alice, I will meet you tomorrow morning, etc. Bob. Now this goes through the public key encryption algorithms by KB minus, and so the Bob's message M, which is signed with this private key, that is KB minus M, right. So this encrypted itself is a part of a signature. Suppose Alice receives message M digitally signed with digital signature KBM as digital signature KBM. Alice verifies M signed by Bob by applying Bob's public key to KBM and checks whether KB plus KB minus M is equal to M. So this is a very simple thing. So as per the public key cryptography, KB plus of KB minus M should be equal to M. So what Bob gets is, what Alice gets is KB plus of M, and she knows KB minus. So we will just do KB minus of KB plus of M equal to M, okay, right. So what we can do is that along with message M, there is an encrypted value of message that can also be sent as a digital signature, right, and every fellow who receives it will receive the message M, and if it wants to verify whether it has been sent, can actually do this KB minus of KB plus of M is M. So this is a sort of a broadcast communication where I want to send my message to everyone, everyone can understand. So I take the message M, I send M itself in full. Along with this, if somebody wants to find out whether I have sent the message, then I also put, I am Bob, I also put KB plus of M. So what the other party receives, they receive M along with KB plus of M. If they just are interested in the message, okay, M they will read, but they want to find out whether Bob has sent, that means I am Bob, I have sent it, so they have my private key, so they will do KB minus of KB plus of M and then verify whether the message M they have got and the output of KB plus of KB minus of M both coincides. If they coincide, then they know that I have sent it. So the simple public key encryption itself can be treated as a digital signature, right. The difference between the public key encryption and this digital signature is, in the public key encryption I am interested in a point to point communication, but in this I am interested in a broadcast. Using my public key I will sign it and send it also. So the message is not encrypted, message goes along with that, the encrypted form of the message also goes, and that is treated as a signature. So if somebody is interested, I repeat, somebody is interested in the message, they can just read the message and forget about it, but somebody is interested in finding out whether that message has been sent by somebody, by say Bob, then they can take the private key of Bob and put KB minus of KB plus of M and see that the message generated will be same as this message. So this is basically a very simple digital signature as a concept which you can get by public key cryptography. So Alice can thus verify that Bob signed M, no one else signed M, and Bob signed M and not some other message M dash. This leads to a very important concept which is legally, technically very important from a forensic point of view, what we call as non-repudiation. What is mean by non-repudiation? That is, Alice can take M and the signature KB minus M to court and prove that Bob really signed that. So if Bob has sent a digitally signed document to Alice and he says I have not done it, then she can basically say that this is the message M he has sent, this is this KB plus M that he has received, that signed, and I have his secret key which we have agreed. Now I put that KB minus of KB plus of M and I get back the original M, so it should be Bob that who has signed it and nobody else. So on a court of law this becomes a valid proof, and even from a cyber forensic point of view, somebody investigating it can use this to prove the whole thing. So typically we need not encrypt the whole message, that would be extremely complex, and you need not send the two things are there. If I encrypt the entire message, then that becomes extremely complex, because instead of sending M, I am sending M plus the encrypted value of M. So signature need not be so huge, right. So people are interested in saying something called a message digest. Message digest is nothing but take the entire message, do some computation on it, get a very smaller, meaning comparatively relatively smaller string, which will be the digest of that message, which will reflect that message, right. So this is basically what we may also call as a fingerprint. The fingerprint is the digest of the entire human body, right. So with the fingerprint I can uniquely identify whose fingerprint is. So this is something like a unique identifier for the body. So what we do for this, we use something called hash functions. These hash functions need to satisfy certain properties. We will look at some of the hash functions as we proceed. In the previous example what we did was we took the message and completely encrypted that message using public key cryptography, and then we said that that completely encrypted message was indeed the signature. But in this case what we do is we just take the message, get it through an hash function, whatever is the output of that hash function, now we say is the signature. Now this hash function basically gives the digest of that message, that is what we say, that it is a good representative of the message. The hash function should also satisfy the property that if something small I change there, okay, something very minute I change there, then the resulting hash. So how did what is that hash function? It took the entire message and created a smaller string, which we call it as the hash of that message or the digest of the message. Now if I change something small in that message, very small thing, then this digest should very big. So if I have m, I get h of m. If I make a small change like m to m dash, your h of m dash should be much different than hm, and this is something that we need to ensure, right. So this is basically the hash, right. So what we communicate is we communicate the message along with the hash of that message, and what is the hash algorithm everybody knows. On the other hand, the person who receives it will get the message, and if he wants to verify, he will apply the same hash function and see if this is indeed the message, right. So that is, in this case what happens is I can prove that the message is not tamperable. If something changed in the message, I know the hash will not agree, but I cannot prove who sent the message, which we could have proved in the earlier case. So this is the next stage. Many times I am interested in sending a communication to all, right, and everybody is interested in the communication per se. They know who has sent it. There is no, many cases we do not have any doubt of who has sent it, right, but is the content of what is sent is correct or not, that is the more important question. In going back to our original terminology, authentication is not very important, but integrity of the communication is important, and if that comes, this hash or this message digest becomes extremely useful. Then given a message digest x, for me to find a message which will, a tampered message which will actually map onto the same digest is computationally infeasible, meaning I have a message m, I do h of m, let me call it y, having another m dash such that the same h of m dash is equal to y is very difficult. So it has been proved that it is computationally infeasible to even today's modern computers, right. So that means if I receive a message m with this hash, there is no chance that somebody could have tampered. So suppose I am receiving some message m with a hash, there is no way by which somebody could have tampered this message and get the same hash, right, because that we rely on mathematics and we show that this is computationally infeasible. So this is about message digest. So some of the functions that are used for creating this message digest are the MD5 hash function, which is widely used in the RFC 1321 of the it is widely used in the networking community, right. So what does MD5 do? It computes a 128-bit message digest in a simple 4-step process, and this arbitrary 128-bit string x appears difficult to construct message m whose MD5 is also equal. So the MD5 basically gets back that same property, right, that if I have a message m which gives you a MD5 128-bit say x, it is very difficult for me to find another m dash which will give you the same x, and by this I ensure that the m with x is a pair which cannot be no one can be substituted. I can't make m with x dash or m dash with x, both is not computationally feasible. Similarly, SHA1 SHA1 we call is also used. This is a US standard, NIST, FIPS, PUB, all these things basically use this SHA1, and this is a 160 bit message digest, while the MD5 is a 128 bit message digest. Typically this is what you see, there is a certification authority that you see here. So what you see here is, first thing, there is a serial number which is unique to the issuer. So somewhere you see this certificate for signing, these are the things that you should keep in mind. First thing is you see a serial number which is unique to the issuer. Then there is something about, some information about the certificate owner, including the algorithm and key value itself, right. So the certificate belongs to so and so, the certificate was right, so that is also here. The next thing that you see is the info about the certificate user, the certificate issuer who has issued this certificate. It also talks about certain valid dates. Basically it says that it is valid from January 28, 1996 to August 1, 2028, and then it also gives you the digital signature by the issuer. What is the digital signature? So all these things form part of your digital signature, right. So to just quickly tell you, the serial number which is unique to the issuer, who has issued, the information about this, the information about certificate owner who belongs to this, and then the valid dates, and then the digital signature, actually the digital signature by the issuer. So all these things can be taken care of. Thank you.